Ricky Gervais is one of my top 9 favourite celebrities. He's brought us some of the best, most original comedies and award show speeches of the millennium, and some of the most pretentious, pompous pieces of shit ever squirted onto the Netflix homepage. And in this series we're going to take a deep look inside every single one of his films, TV shows and other stuff and see what's going on. This is the ultimate Ricky Gervais review, and it's going to be beautiful. I will probably change that title. So in this multi-part series, I'm going to be covering every single piece of media Ricky's ever produced. Anything written by himself or written by himself and Stephen Merchant. From the very beginning of his career to his latest project. And then just for fun, at the end of every review, I'm gonna put him in a little tier list. A nice little tier list, why not? But we're going to get right into it because we've got a lot to get through. We've got too much to get through, and frankly I'm sick of looking at his face.
Yes. Oh!
Starting with 2001's The Office. The original version of The Office, in my opinion, is perfect. It was first created in the form of a short film made for Stephen Merchant's producer training programme for the BBC. The film starred Ricky in the lead role as seedy boss who would later become David Brent. The film was then shown to a BBC higher-up who commissioned a series based on it. Easy. It's going to become clearer as we go just how vital Stephen Merchant is to Gervais's writing, but The Office is a great example of the genius they can create when they're together. Ironically, the show from Gervais I love the most is probably the one I have the least to say about it, because it's been praised and analysed to death at this point. But by the way, the show definitely isn't for everyone. As far as cringe and uncomfortable humour go, The Office is probably a show that understands it more than anyone. And what can put some people off is just the pure, unrelenting realism. Every line and interaction feels so natural that sometimes the show gets close to a Borat level of uncomfortability. But this realism doesn't only enhance the comedic elements, but also the emotional ones. This show doesn't need huge world-ending stakes. All we need are 11 episodes showcasing a sad, desperate man failed time and time again because of his insecurities and embarrassing social barriers he puts up, to, in the last episode, seemingly out of nowhere, slide those barriers to one side and give an honest, vulnerable reaction. And it becomes one of the saddest scenes in TV. Or to watch the same man be constantly put down and demeaned by probably the only genuinely mean person in the whole show for 2 seasons.
I'm not saying he's fat, but when he jumps in the air he gets stuck. I'm David Brent. I'm David Brent.
Jim Carrey.
You've never seen a girl like that before, have you? Well, not without a staple through her stomach, eh? Well, what did you say
well,
then?
It's a quiz situation.
No, tell them.
It's a quiz situation.
What did you say then? What did you say then? Well, who's the Cuban leader?
Fray Bentos.
Huh? No wonder this place is going down the pan. You're a waste of bloody time.
To then, again, out of nowhere, deliver a line that signifies one of the most satisfying glimpses of change to any sitcom character.
No dog with you today, David?
Oh, do you not see her? She just left.
Chris,
Yeah.
why don't you fuck off?
And disregarding the warehouse wankers, that was the chair. I meant it when I said Chris Finch is the only genuinely mean person in the whole show. David Brent does exhibit some mean qualities every now and then, but you know it always comes from a place of insecurity. He just wants to be liked so bad that anyone who comes along and threatens to steal the non-existent spotlight from him can make him come across as mean. And then you have Tim and Dawn's relationship, which can be best summed up by Gervais and Merchant themselves, why it works so well.
What you find as well, especially with the romantic plot, is it's like because the camera's filming them, they can't show their emotions for each other, they can't show their true feelings, you know, Tim and Dawn. So it means that you've got, it's almost like you've sort of some kind of Victorian seething kind of melodrama where, you know, suddenly just him touching her or her touching him, that's as much as a kiss, it means as much, you know.
A kiss becomes a shag.
So it becomes a kind of, you get that nice kind of electricity between them.
What I admire most about the show though is its restraint. They knew exactly when to end it. They showed us the perfect amount and it never overstays its welcome. Because imagine if they returned to even just one of the characters and completely botched them. That would suck. But yeah, that's The Office. It's good. But while I do prefer it over the US version, which I kind of feel like I have to mention at this point, the US version is really great as well, for the most part. But yeah, good job, boys.
Nice one.
No surprise here, I'm going to slap The Office right in S. It's going to start getting pretty lonely up there.
So, here we are, the lads. Going to talk about Extras, the cracking new sitcom. Not a fan?
It was alright.
Not as good as The Office, in your opinion?
I didn't like The Office much.
I thought it was overrated.
After the smash hit that was The Office, Ricky and Steve started work on their brand new show Extras, which centres around Andy Millman, an extra who dreams of making it big in the TV and film world. Also, every episode is named after and features a famous person. This could easily be seen as just a cheap crutch to keep the viewer engaged week after week, but no. That's wrong. The thing I love the most about Extras isn't the celebrity cameos, but both the relationship between Andy and Maggie, and Andy's arc across the 2 seasons. It's rare to see a nice male-female friendship in TV that isn't bogged down by will they won't they's at some point. Andy being painfully self-obsessed but fairly intellectual, paired with Maggie's stupidity, whilst also having a lot of emotional intelligence, creates a really fun to watch dynamic between the two. Also, I know this is subjective, but this show is hilarious. Stephen Merchant stepping from behind the camera to having a regular part as Andy's manager Darren Lamb creates some of the best comedic moments in the whole series.
Why am I not getting any acting roles?
I've been thinking about this, and I'm glad you brought it up. I've got a feeling it could be your shape. It is a very unusual shape, and I'm not sure who would be looking for it.
And so many of the jokes are set up in such a smart, subtle way. And the reason why the cameos every episode work so well is because you can feel the lack of ego with all these actors. The show itself is about ego and the negative aspects of the film and TV industry. And every celebrity cameo understands this, and they're used as opportunities to play into this. From the first episode, Ben Stiller has no issue portraying himself as an ego-driven maniac, and it serves the themes of the entire show so well. But even without the celebrity cameos, the side characters provide a whole new layer of comedy on top. Sam Jackson barely shows up in his episode, but its focus is a great relatable subplot where the most depressing man on the planet wants to be friends with Andy, which isn't reciprocated. But what really makes the show stand out is the arc of the main character, and the commentary on the film industry surrounding it. Starting as a humble extra and slowly growing in fame but having to sell out to get there is such an accurate representation of most B-list celebrities nowadays. And Andy is the perfect vessel to tell this story. The entire first season is Andy constantly complaining about not being appreciated, and not much changes when he eventually finds success.
When you had nothing and we were both extras, we had more of a laugh.
No, he didn't. I hated it. It was shit. I was always moaning.
You're always moaning now. You're always saying he's got an acting part that you wanted, or he's got credibility and he doesn't deserve it. If you worry about things like that, you're never going to be happy. No matter how successful you are, you'll never be famous enough.
And then this realisation finally comes when he resorts to going on Big Brother, where all so-called celebrities with feigning relevance go to desperately crawl back into the public eye. It's refreshing for a show this successful to be calling out this sort of thing by name.
And fuck you, the makers of this show as well. You can't wash your hands of this. Oh, it's exploitation, but it's what the public want. The Victorian freak show never went away. Now it's called Big Brother or X Factor. We wheel out the bewildered to be sniggered at by multi-millionaires.
Later on in Ricky's career, it will start to become apparent that his characters usually just force his own beliefs and opinions down the viewer's throat, and it gets extremely tiresome. But the difference here is, yeah, Ricky definitely believes the things that Andy and the show are saying, but it works because the character has earned this. We've been on this journey with him, and so his realisation at the end makes sense and is made all the more powerful. Overall though, not quite as groundbreaking or revolutionary as The Office, but Extras is still a great show and definitely needs more recognition. Because I'm not gonna lie boys, it's mostly all downhill from here. But yeah, it's going in A. Moving on.
I've had thousands of emails over the past few days saying, why, oh why, was the Invention of Lying not nominated? I don't know. I just don't know. Maybe the DVD will win an award. That's out Tuesday at Walmart.
2 years after Extras wrapped, Ricky attempted to venture into the film industry with 2009's The Invention of Lying. Remember? Remember when that film happened? The Invention of Lying isn't as boring or anger-inducing as his later films, but what I will say is it's probably got the most amount of plot holes in any movie I've ever seen in my life. Now, if you only know this film by premise alone, you might be wondering, how the hell do they establish the world and the history of this society all in the first 5 minutes? Well, Ricky just explains it.
The story you're about to see takes place in a world where the human race has never evolved the ability to tell a lie.
Not even his character, just Ricky Gervais. Bearing in mind his character is a screenwriter, so why couldn't he have just been reading out a script he wrote based on this film? I know it's cliche, but more cliche and lazy than this. So yeah, that's the film. Ricky plays Mark, a performer who tells the first lie in a world where people only tell the truth and lying has never before existed. Once he realises what he can achieve by lying, there is no stopping him. What do you mean I'm reading the back of the DVD? I don't know why they called him a performer though, he's not. Now I'm going to get this stupid argument out of the way before I start moaning about the plot holes this concept brings up. Yes, it's a silly little comedy, but that doesn't excuse them. When the film starts diving into commentary on religion and capitalism, it clearly thinks it's being smart and intricate with this concept, but then also expects us to not think too hard about the concept because of the endless glaring plot holes. You can't do both. You can't pick and choose when I'm supposed to stop using my brain and then when I'm supposed to switch it back on again. At the beginning of the film, Ricky's character, who's called Mark by the way, meets Jennifer Garner, and it becomes pretty clear that the invention of lying is really just the invention of not constantly speaking your mind 24/7.
We're just masturbating.
That makes me think of your vagina. That makes me think of your vagina.
Here you go.
Thank you.
I had a little sip of this from right there.
Would it be lying if he didn't say this? Do people in this world just have to constantly commentate what they're doing every second of every day? Right now I'm breathing and walking, I'm inhaling oxygen and exhaling carbon dioxide, I'm commentating what I'm doing. I'm hungry, I need to poo. To water my leg is I am trapped in a living house in which I can never escape. I pray for the sweet release of death and the hope in which my consciousness will cease to exist. During the beginning narration, 3 examples are shown to further illustrate this concept.
Look, I'm not coming into work today. No, I'm not sick. I just hate it there.
Oh, your baby is so ugly. It's like a little rat. Wow. I just took one of the biggest poops of my whole life.
2 of these examples actually work. They're having fun with this concept of the inability to lie, and it also makes sense. But one of them is just a woman oversharing something that frankly no one asked. But then you have other issues arise. During the date with Jennifer Garner's character, she's fake smiling to seem polite, or Ricky's character will sarcastically say things that don't seem completely honest.
Sorry about that.
It's alright. Don't think twice. How is your mum, alright?
She's alright.
Great.
But don't think about it. It's a funny comedy.
This is it, Mark. A few more hours like this and then an eternity of nothingness.
When we watched this film, I completely forgot how many famous people there are in this film. Oh hey, I didn't know you were there, but now that you're here, you might as well subscribe to the Stanland YouTube channel. Just a little button just below, give it a little press, and then you become one of my subscribers. But yeah, the amount of cameos that Ricky's star power is able to muster is insane. Tina Fey, Rob Lowe, Jonah Hill, Louis C.K., Jeffrey Tambor, Jimmy Simpson, Jason Bateman, Christopher Guest, Edward Norton, Philip Seymour Hoffman. And weirdly enough, the 3 minutes Edward Norton's in is probably my favourite part of the film. But I know exactly what you're thinking. Stanley? What about God? What about the themes of God in this film? I'm getting to it, alright? Because I want to talk about something even more important, which is shot composition and music. Yeah! Ricky Gervais can be a great writer, but as a director he is painfully boring. I get that Ricky's focus is usually the writing, and it's not like I'm expecting Deakins level cinematography here, but his choice of shot is just so bland, so matter of fact. And I'm not overreacting when I say this, but watching one of his films for extended periods of time, it can start to feel like Chinese water torture. And the same goes for his choice of music. It's like temp music of temp music. It's like if the least advanced AI produced the soundtrack with the description of standard. This wasn't really an issue for shows like Extras because of the low camera quality and the gritty realism it adds, but here it's right in the middle. So safely polished, the directing is so by the book and clinical. There's even a happy montage that plays in the second act of the film, and no word of a lie, they play Mr. Blue Sky by ELO, which is the mid-2000s equivalent of playing Happy by Pharrell Williams. But anyways, back to the plot. I want to say I do like this concept, but I just don't know how you can believably centre a story around it. Lying is such a blanket statement. Society would be unrecognisable if we evolved with no ability to lie. It goes against our nature as humans. Flattery or white lies to keep relationships and friendships with people. It doesn't seem like most people in this world don't get offended or affected by negative feedback. Obviously, because Mark is a screenwriter and there's no such thing as fiction, every screenwriter can only write about real events. They mention Napoleon a lot, which implies war throughout history happened exactly like our society, but the amount of strategic lying and deceit that needed to happen. Not to mention religion doesn't exist, so why are the dates the same? Why did the Black Death happen in 1346 AD? What does AD even mean? Oh, it means Anno Domini, which comes from the Latin meaning in the year of the Lord. Which Lord? Oh shit, yeah, none of this makes sense. So Mark goes to the bank to withdraw the rest of his money, which is where he has his breakthrough lying moment.
$800.
Sir?
$800.
Wait a second. It says here that you only have $300 in your account, but you said you wanted to withdraw $800.
Yeah,
I apologize, sir. It seems our system has made a mistake. Let's get you your $800. Did you want large bills or small?
I guess human error doesn't exist in this society either. Yet the computer must be wrong. Huh? The reason I find this film so frustrating is for the brief moments the concept's used in a fun way, it almost makes you wish that it was way more watertight than it actually is. The scene where Mark tries out his new powers on his friends is really enjoyable and fun to watch.
My name is Doug.
Your name is Doug.
Hi, Doug.
That's so weird, I never knew your real name.
I'm black.
I knew it.
Oh, you're very light skinned, but I can see it. I'm a lion tamer, and I'm wearing a wig.
Aren't you scared you'll get bitten one day?
That's a fantastic wig.
But with the amount of inconsistencies and unanswered questions, it can send you off on a rabbit hole of confusion. Unless you've remembered to switch your brain off at this point in the story. Like, how far could you go with this? If Mark told someone that they were blind, would they believe him? Would they then become blind? It also kind of hinders the characterization. Every character is just either a dickhead or depressed. It's genuinely surprising when you find out that Jennifer Garner's character is Mark's love interest for the end of the film, because she's been nothing but insulting and cruel to him.
No, not very attractive. A bit fat. Are you better looking?
No.
Have you been to the gym?
No.
Did you buy new clothes?
No.
I don't want little fat kids with snub noses. Little fat kids with snub noses. You're chubby and you have a snub nose.
You're the most wonderful person I've ever met.
I get that that's the point of the world, but the film doesn't seem to understand the lack of chemistry this creates. Now I want to get to the part that is definitely the only reason Ricky even signed on to this project in the first place. Mark goes to see his mum who's about to die, and she says she's scared, which makes him say,
You're wrong about what happens after you die. It's not an eternity of nothingness. You go to your favourite place in the whole world, and everyone you've ever loved and who's ever loved you will be there. And you'll be young again.
This culminates in Mark basically becoming a preacher and telling the world about this made-up religion.
Everyone will get a mansion.
What kind of mansion?
The best mansion you could think of.
I was thinking of a horrible mansion.
Now we're getting closer to what I don't like about Ricky's current writing. Ironically, it's getting too preachy. It's so ham-fisted. I can see Ricky talking to me through this film saying, do you get it? Because religion is all built on lies, and so in this film religion doesn't exist. Because it's all lies. I get it. Put the knife down, Ricky. Even though I agree with most of Gervais's takes, you alienate people when your projects lack this much nuance. There's no room for interpretation because I'm literally being told what the message is. But yeah, I don't know, this is such a weird film. It's not too boring and there are some interesting concepts, but it's bogged down by so much shit. The uninspired presentation, the plot holes, the contrivances, it's too much. Overall though, out of the 4 films Ricky's been a part of, this is depressingly my favourite. C tier. Bada bing. In 2010, Ricky and Steve decided to write and direct their own film that no one's seen. It's called Cemetry Junction, and it's a film about a boy who lives in Reading who gets up to mischief with his friends and works at a factory and then wants more out of life, so starts working for Voldemort to sell life insurance, but then wants more out of life, so he gets on a train and goes to France or Norway or something with Felicity Jones, and it took me 3 weeks to finish this film. This film has a weird contrasting feeling of being both a passion project from Ricky and Steve, but also a project they didn't really care that much about. I really don't know what possessed them to make this. It's not very funny, and even when attempting to be funny, it doesn't fit with Ricky and Steve's usual comedy at all. It's really just a basic coming of age story. There's not really anything that makes it stand out. Someone out there might enjoy it. You know, the acting isn't bad, the writing's pretty good, the soundtrack's nice. The film's set in the 70s, so it uses a lot of Bowie and Elton and Springsteen. The directing's serviceable until it's not. I mean, what was that? That was so silly. That was so silly. But yeah, watch it. Don't watch it. I don't know why it was made. And I'd like to move on now. D. It gets the D. One year later, Ricky and Steve return to give us the last sitcom they'll write together for the foreseeable future, and it's called Life's Too Short, a mockumentary following the current career of Warwick Davis, a dwarf actor known for his roles in Star Wars and the Harry Potter films. The show ran for 1 season, 7 episodes, and 1 special in 2013. I remember really loving this show as a kid. It felt like the classic Ricky and Steve dry humour with the added benefit of watching Warwick Davis fall over a lot.
Warwick.
But after rewatching it, it definitely has its problems. But I'll start on a positive note. The celebrity cameos in this show are pretty funny for the most part, even if it does feel like a cheap gimmick here, contrary to when Extras did it. But they still make for some of the most entertaining parts. With Extras, the celebrities were clearly playing specific characters, with only a small sliver of themselves in the role. But here, I don't know if it's because the celebrities used are just really great actors, or if it's the mockumentary style, but they almost feel too real sometimes. Like the things they're saying and doing is obviously made up by Ricky and Steve, but they all play it off so well, it's sometimes hard to tell if there was actually any animosity between the actors.
Sorry, have I done something to offend you?
What do you mean, like trashing me in front of like 200 million people? At the Golden Globes?
It was a while ago. They were jokes, Johnny.
In episode 3, Warwick gets a role on a Helena Bonham Carter film, but when he gets there, he realises he's only there to substitute a child actor for the reverse shots, and to be Helena's eyeline for the scene. But what this whole interaction ends up being is just Helena's so creeped out by Warwick that she can't even perform the scene. It actually starts to get quite uncomfortable to watch.
Then I must be a brave man, for all I feel
I'm
is...
sorry, I can't.
Cut.
Yeah, I can't have his face staring at me either.
It?
Can we lose the face?
What do you mean, lose the face?
Can we cover up the face, please?
It's Fairfax, I'm scared.
I'm sorry.
Cut. What's the problem?
Well, he's sneaking around back there. I mean, I don't know what he's doing. Yeah, I mean, he could be doing anything, weeing or anything. And what?
Okay, let's put the midget in the bin.
Hang on a minute. I'm not going in the bin. It's ridiculous.
Oh, really? You want to get paid?
I'm sorry.
Cut.
He's peering, he's staring out at me while I'm doing the scene.
Oh, we just...
I think I've had enough.
Okay.
And I know what I can take.
We'll get rid of it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, shit, I'm sorry. It's okay.
Okay, that's lunch, folks.
And I don't know if this uncomfortability is a detriment to the series or not. It's not the same kind of uncomfortable feeling you get with The Office or Extras, it's just kind of sad and weird. But then, in a way, these moments are probably the most interesting parts of the show. Also similar to Extras, they really play into the lack of glamour the industry can have sometimes. The running joke throughout the series is that no one knows Warwick Davis.
It's mistakes like that is why I'm still at this channel. Been here 3 years, still doing shit little interviews with nobodies. Let's go again. What's the name again?
Warwick Davis.
And even though there is some truth to that, they really play it up to a hilarious degree.
On the real talk, let me break it down for you, yeah? No one knows you. What films you been in?
Have you seen Return of the Jedi?
Who was you in that?
It was an Ewok.
Those little bears?
Not little bears. Have you seen Willow?
No.
One of my biggest problems with Life's Too Short, though, unfortunately, is Warwick Davis. Or at least the version of himself he plays in this. In real life, he's a lovely little guy. He's a good actor.
I'm so bad, I'm good.
I'll show you what to do, so lend an ear.
And he was great in the Willow reboot. Just kidding, I didn't see it. But he plays a character in Life's Too Short, similar to a less subtle version of David Brent, but with none of the redeeming qualities.
Don't know what part of that you're not understanding.
Right, calm down. Showing off, Alex.
Ooh, you're hard, showing off.
He's unlikable and manipulative and greedy and full of himself, and I don't like him. They somewhat rectify this in this special. They just kind of change his entire character off screen, which to me seemed like a last-ditch effort to get more eyes onto this show, to maybe commission another season, but unfortunately no dice.
And I used to be a lying, conniving, selfish little shit.
But that change does significantly improve the show. That 1 hour long episode is probably the best one out of all of them because Warwick isn't being an annoying cunt. Also, there's a couple side characters in this and I don't really like any of them. Warwick's wife, who's filing for divorce, and her lawyer are okay. They kind of just play it very straight, not a lot of comedic moments linked to them. But then you have Warwick's assistant, who is so dumb. I mean, that's her character, she's dumb. To a ridiculous degree. Not even a funny dumb, it's more of just a frustrating dumbness where she can't do anything. And her voice is grating.
From his username, I found his YouTube channel, and from his YouTube channel, we've linked with my
Yeah, okay.
And then you have Warwick's accountant, who I hate. He's incompetent and mean and stupid, and again, not in a funny way. If you want your comedic character to be mean or dumb or manipulative or incompetent, you also need some sort of redeeming quality to them. Something that explains and humanizes them. Are they dumb but caring? Are they mean but insecure? Are they manipulative but intelligent? They need something to them, but this man has nothing. The majority of the show, when there aren't celebrities involved, kind of just feels like someone doing their best impression of Ricky and Steve's writing. The awkward public humiliation is there, but it feels kind of played out. There's only so many times I can watch Warwick in a public setting say something out there or inappropriate, realise he's done so, and then for absolutely no reason just start digging himself deeper and deeper into a hole. And as soon as you're 5 minutes into one of these scenes, it just starts to get kind of eye-rolling rather than cringe-worthy, which I'm guessing was the desired effect.
Now, traditionally, the best man's speech is when you make the groom feel uncomfortable for 5 minutes, which is exactly what Nigel does to Emma in bed. He makes her feel uncomfortable because he's not very good in bed. Not uncomfortable because he's making her do something she doesn't want to do, like forcing her to do anal. Before you know it, you've only swapped bloody phone numbers and a meeting for a drink on Friday.
Are these condoms all right for you? You sure they'll fit? Because it's one size fits all.
Yeah, don't worry about it. No, they're not for you. Well, I mean, they could be, but they're for anyone. So, not anyone would never presume, obviously. And you've got to be careful. It's better to be safe because, you know, there's all sorts of diseases. Not that I've got. I'm clean. But I don't know about... But no, that's not what I'm saying. You know, we all get stressed about it and I'm...
Shut the fuck up! Overall though, it's not an awful show. Definitely not Ricky and Steve's best, but there are still some standout moments. B tier. Better than the Invention of Lying, but not as good as Extras. Let's move on.
Thank you. Shush. Shut up. You disgusting, pill-popping, sexual deviant scum.
Next, I want to focus on what I believe makes Ricky, Ricky. His stand-ups and Golden Globe speeches, especially the Golden Globes. That's what propelled his career up past English comedy writer to the comedian's comedian. I'll start with his stand-ups and then I'll move on to the cream de la cream. So far, Ricky's done 7 stand-up specials, with one more coming to Netflix very soon. This is where I think Ricky strives best, giving himself a platform to just spew all his ideas and beliefs with some jokes laid in there to an audience he's accumulated. Back when one of his more recent specials came out, I remember him saying in an interview, "This is my best one yet." And his stand-up routines throughout the years have definitely got more polished. He's got the routine down to a T nowadays, but weirdly, I actually prefer his older stand-ups. Science probably being my favourite out of all of them, which came out in 2010. But I wasn't sure what the reason for this was. Why Ricky's stand-ups were getting less and less enjoyable to me as time went on. But then I saw an interview when Humanity came out that explained why this is.
It's less persona than my first 4.
Right.
You know, all comedians have a bit of a persona, even if it's just a slightly more confident, brasher version of themselves.
Sure.
But mine's less and less now. I think I've reached that age where I've got old people's rights, so I just say what's on my mind. And it's much more anecdotal, it's much more honest, it's much more about
my past and everything.
And it's true. Back in the day, Ricky's stand-ups were almost shrouded in a thin fog of constant irony. He had a clear on-stage persona, not dissimilar to himself, but one that I feel commanded a better stage presence than Ricky with no altered persona. Whoa, hold your horses. Looks like you're stating a subjective opinion there, Stan. Can we keep these perspectives objective, please? The reason why I bring this up, as I keep hinting to, which I will expand on when I tackle this fucking box of worms, is that by this point in my life, I've oversaturated myself with Gervais. I've listened to like 20 hours of his XFM radio show from the early 2000s when I used to deliver Christmas meal adverts around my village when I was a child. I've watched almost every interview he's ever given. I've watched him debate Colbert and Dawkins and that one he did about God that looks like a Vogue interview. I've heard every single one of his points 100 times and it gets predictable. I enjoyed his last special enough, but almost every time he'd bring up a topic, I'd be saying the punchline in my head before he even gets there.
So I go, what, you don't believe in God at all? I go, no. Do you pray? I go, no. Why don't you pray just in case there's a God? Well, someone said on Twitter once to me, why don't you pray just in case there's a God? And I say, why don't you put garlic over your door just in case there's a Dracula? Right? The duck-billed platypus. Scientists first found that. They thought it was a hoax because it produces eggs and milk. It could make its own custard. But it doesn't, but it could.
And this was a lot harder to do with his older specials because the character he was playing on stage made him more unpredictable. But even the punchlines that I haven't heard before, there are still some jokes in his latest special that just are pretty predictable.
So I riff, if I say something tonight that's so offensive, so off that you've never heard anything so fucking off the charts in your life, right? Go to the box office after the show. They can't give you money back straight away, but there's a form you fill out with a complaint.
He's gonna say that he wipes his arse on them.
And I take those away and I shit on them.
He poos on them. I didn't see that one coming. But whatever, I'm nitpicking, it doesn't matter. Because now I want to move on to the next part of Ricky's live performances. In 2010, Ricky was asked to host the Golden Globes. Little did he know he'd go on to do it 4 more times over the following years, and it would be the best thing ever. I'm going to be upfront, I don't like the Oscars.
For those of you watching around the world, it has been a tough couple of days for us here. It has been raining.
I don't like the Golden Globes, and the BAFTAs can go fuck themselves. Like almost everything ever created, something that starts off as a humble celebration of the hard work of someone in the film industry will sooner or later become corrupt and meaningless. Which is exactly what happened to these award shows over the years. And does the very fact that if I'm ever invited to one of these events I'd belly crawl over 6 miles of broken glass to attend make me a hypocrite? No. Point is, the only reason I tune into the Oscars or Golden Globes every year is to hope either there's another embarrassing car crash moment, or if Ricky Gervais is hosting. This man has openly, in front of the most beloved and powerful people in Hollywood, said Tom Cruise and John Travolta are closeted gay men. He said Joe Pesci looks like Baby Yoda, and Jeffrey Epstein is everyone in the room's friend. It's mental. Not only that he had the balls to say these things to their faces, but also that he was given the platform to do it 5 times. And Chris Rock makes one joke.
Thank God for Ricky Gervais going off Sunday night to let people know that you still got a voice, okay? We still got a voice.
Absolutely right, Joey Diaz. Thank God for Ricky Gervais. Watching 5 of these speeches has single-handedly made me rethink my perspective on so many actors. Leonardo DiCaprio.
Once upon a time in Hollywood, nearly 3 hours long, Leonardo DiCaprio attended the premiere, and by the end, his date was too old for him. So
he can take a joke, he's great. Helen Mirren.
Bridesmaids, one of my favourite comedies of the year, yeah. Girls finally proved that they can be as raunchy as the men. Farting, burping, cursing, performing wild sex acts, even pooping in the sink. I actually heard for research the cast spent the weekend with Dame Helen Mirren. She's dreadful. Honestly, you don't see a lot of it because she's got good PR, but she's off the rails.
Cool as a cucumber. Jonathan Pryce.
Big year for paedophile movies. Surviving R. Kelly, Leaving Neverland, 2 Popes. Shut up. Shut up. I don't care. I don't care.
Take that stick out your arse, man. Boring, sour old penis. This one reaction shot from Tom Hanks that everyone has seen has now made me dislike him. And against my own will. You know, Big, Forrest Gump, that Castaway, I loved you, Tom, and now Ricky Gervais has made me despise you to the core. You didn't even do anything. Out of everything Ricky Gervais has ever done, these 5 speeches are probably my favourite. He's truly a comedian of the people. He didn't try and cater to the 100-odd Hollywood celebrities sitting in front of him that night. He spoke for the millions of us watching from home, and he's a beautiful man. S tier.
You say about people that me and Steve bully you.
If they think I am being bullied, what are they doing? Carl's being bullied. Well, first of all, I'm nearly 40s, don't worry about me. And 2, well, if you're worried about it, do something.
How does a dishwasher that's been found on Mars?
Rubbish. Whoa, what? Sum up mankind's foray into the future.
I reckon we'll blend all our food.
Hello, Doctor.
Hello.
I have a pain.
Okay, whereabouts is the pain?
My anus.
Of course it is.
I said, what's this here? So I wandered over, right? Got right up close to it, and somebody had roted.
Somebody has roted?
Oh.
Give an example.
You smell. You shit.
Carl, if you could spend a day with an exact replica of you, what would you do with this?
How would I know which one I was?
That is the most stupid thing ever said by a human being.
You didn't eat toad. I had a little bit of toad. I've always wanted to kick a duck up the arse.
Double your investment in one.
What bullshit? Oh, fucking hell. Came up with a good idea. See-through skin. Jesus. Where's Carlos gone? He's just shouting Congress talk. Shit. Shit. Hey, see, why have you got a boner now? Pack it in. Stop putting the fucking bins out.
So this is in your head.
There's dirty, shitty undies all over the fucking pavement. You want. But I'll tell you what, you're not coming back here. Fuck off. I've told you, it attracts foxes. You fucking stink. Have a bath, you smelly shit. Get the fuck out. I don't want to do it.
This has happened to you, isn't it?
Yeah, it has, yeah.
Does it really?
Yeah, it has.
What did you
They
do?
don't give a shit. They don't give a shit.
Out of every project Ricky's given us, I don't think there's any as beloved as Karl Pilkington. Since meeting him in 2001, we've had 2 shows created by Ricky and starring Karl, and like 1 million hours of the XFM radio show they used to host together with Stephen Merchant. And I thought it'd be interesting to not only look at the 2 shows Ricky made, but also the projects Karl took upon himself to produce afterwards. I know I said these reviews are only looking at Gervais's work, but it's the natural order. You know, Ricky produced Karl, and so the way I see it, whatever Karl produces is all part of the same bloodline. But as I said, Ricky found Karl in 2001. At this time, Ricky and Steve were hosting the morning show on XFM radio, but after creating season 1 of The Office, they returned to the studio as big famous heroes, and so were given a workplace grunt to press all their buttons for them and come up with terrible segments. And this grunt was named Karl. All these early episodes of the radio show are available on YouTube, and it's interesting to see the progression of Ricky slowly realising the goldmine in front of him. The more he opened his mouth, the more Ricky and Steve realised the potential. And what we were given is hours upon hours of the funniest radio you will ever hear. Now obviously a lot of the conversations from the XFM show were later animated and made into the Ricky Gervais show, but there's so much great content that was never used. Educating Ricky being one, where Karl would give Ricky a choice of sort of headlines and then tell the story behind them.
I'm going to come in with topics every week, and this week I've got
Ghosts?
No, hanging bacon is one of the topics.
Say that again?
Hanging bacon.
Hanging bacon?
All the titles.
Francis Bacon.
No, all the titles are sort of named to sort of tease you and get you more interested in it.
Well, what's another title one?
Hairy Chinese Kid.
I'm gonna go for that one.
If there was a university degree with that title...
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go for Hairy Chinese Kid,
And
I think.
the final one, Alien Gives Man a Beard.
Right.
Alien gives man a beer.
I am going to burst. Right, listen, Carl, you've got to tell me. Right, first, right, let's do it in reverse order.
We're not going to do it now anyway.
What do you mean? We've got to do it now. I mean, this is the first interesting thing you've said in an hour.
Also, if you ever want to hear Ricky truly enraged, Karl's segment Rockbusters on the show is another really good one. Every week or so, Karl would come up with 3 cryptic clues to a band or artist, and then the audience would have to guess who the artist is to earn some really cheap prizes. But obviously, Karl's not the smartest man in the world, so the clues are usually pretty shit, which angers Ricky every single time.
If you are new, you haven't heard it before, I sort of give a cryptic clue and then some initials.
I'd say it isn't cryptic. It's like, what am I thinking? That might or might not be the initials that I'm going to say. That's how you got to think, really. Yeah. But go on.
Last one. That stuff I put on my toast.
Yeah.
Right, sort of doesn't taste right. It's not sort of sharp enough.
No, well, I got it to be blunt, and I got jam. Jam blunt.
But there's no artist called Jam
There's
Blunt.
no jam, no. There's an artist called The Jam.
No, but look like Jam's Blunt.
Jam's Blunt. I don't know anyone called Jam's Blunt, though, mate.
So there's your answer.
No, what's the answer?
James Blunt.
No, you said Jam's Blunt, mate.
Jam's Blunt. So
doesn't work.
So who's the winner,
It doesn't
Steve?
work. It's not a cryptic clue. It doesn't work.
A couple years later, Ricky and Steve decided to start their own podcast with Karl being the main subject. These podcasts, paired with their old XFM radio show, would then be chopped up, animated and aired on HBO in 2010 as The Ricky Gervais Show, giving the broader public their first taste of Karl. And whoever's idea this was, Ricky's or Steve's or HBO's, it was absolutely genius. Yeah, the audio was there for people to listen to, but the animation really adds to the stories and ideas Karl is spouting, and ensures you're only getting the very best stuff as well. Just hours upon hours of Karl giving his opinions on things and telling made up stories, and a lot of abuse and laughing from Ricky and Steve. Definitely S tier, there's nothing really wrong with it. It was a great idea and some of the best radio you ever hear. Skadoosh.
Hi, I'm Ricky Gervais, with me Stephen Merchant.
Hello.
And Karl Pilkington.
Alright.
And we've made a brand new series in which we send Karl around the world to see the 7 wonders. Enjoy it?
No, I hated it.
That was sort of the point. I was hoping for that.
Next, in the same year the Ricky Gervais Show was released, Sky brought us the first series of Karl Pilkington's 7 Wonders.
Well, I had a meeting with everyone, and they weren't sure about the title, Karl Pilkington's 7 Wonders. An Idiot Abroad.
Well, no, we didn't say anything. We didn't say anything about that. We said it's Karl Pilkington's 7 Wonders.
An Idiot Abroad was a smash hit right off the bat, and it's no wonder why. After the Ricky Gervais Show and the trailers dropped for An Idiot Abroad, the British public immediately took to Pilky like a fruit fly to an orange. Obviously, having Ricky's name attached definitely helped, but projects like Extras and The Invention of Lying never really became as popular as anything involving Karl. He's just impossible not to watch. He was an outlet of unfiltered truth. He could profess the most uneducated opinions on different cultures, but his innocence and stupidity made it acceptable.
They're different.
What, Chinese people?
They just wreck everything. They make everything weird. You know what I mean? Octopus. Toad.
He just made that one up!
Especially for our generation, travel documentaries as a whole have a tendency to be boring. And that's because the lens we watch them through are usually a boring person. Like, go home. With An Idiot Abroad though, we get the best of both worlds. It does act as a great travel series. Karl and the crew really dive deep into different cultures, more so than actual serious travel docs, but we also get a truly entertaining lens to see it all through. It's not just banking on the wonderment alone, we also get to witness an honest, pessimistic and hilarious perspective all the way through it. Some standout moments for me, definitely all the bungee jump moments. Ricky basically forcing Karl to bungee jump by donating to charity, and then Karl pretending to do it and then getting caught out. There are some genuine bits of believable drama throughout the series. It doesn't feel overly edited or manipulative like most documentary/reality programs are nowadays. My only gripe with An Idiot Abroad though would probably be the last season with Warwick Davis. And I feel like the main reason for this is the absence of Stephen Merchant. Something about him not being there just kind of makes the show feel empty. If you see the first 2 seasons as just 2 best friends playing a practical joke on their stupider friend, then having Ricky do it by himself for whatever reason just kind of makes it look a bit sad. There's only speculation around why Steve wasn't involved with Series 3, and most of the speculation is just scheduling conflicts. Steve was working on his sitcom and maybe couldn't be part of the show, who knows. But the dynamic between Warwick and Karl doesn't really make up for it. Even if they were constantly at odds, it would make for entertaining TV, but they just don't really gel together. I feel like Ricky was hoping for a much bigger clash in personalities than we actually got. Also, An Idiot Abroad the short way round. I mean, it's about Karl and Warwick, and yeah, Warwick's short, but it's not really the main focus, is it? Overall though, An Idiot Abroad is one of my favourite projects in Ricky's catalogue, and it's an A-tier show. Now, as a Karl-centric part of this series I'm doing, it's going to be a shorter one compared to the others, but there were 2 more shows that Karl took on after his time with Ricky came to an end. And good on him. He got his start into entertainment through Ricky, and then he capitalised it as best as he could after the fact.
So you go around the world to find the answer to these from different
I mean, I'll tell you now, there isn't any answers.
Right.
I'm more clueless now than I was at the beginning, because the world's pretty mad, isn't it?
The first of these 2 ventures was called The Moaning of Life, which ran for 2 seasons in 2013 and 2015. I never really gave this show a chance until making this video. It just kind of seemed like an extension of An Idiot Abroad, but without Ricky, which I wasn't really interested in. But after watching a few episodes, it actually does stand on its own. It's definitely got a similar feel to An Idiot Abroad, but the difference here is Karl has more of a say in where he gets to go and what themes each episode will explore. What we get is a much less grumpy Karl and one who's more embracing of the different cultures and perspectives, which is a nice change of pace. Also, what I like about the show is we get many more moments of Karl interacting with people, which is always fun to watch. In An Idiot Abroad, most of his interactions with people were either limited because of a language barrier or the fact that Karl just didn't want to be there. But here, Karl is actively starting conversations with people, and it can lead to some really hilariously awkward interactions.
Chose smart shirt.
Did I? Which one? Which one were you?
29. What did you like about it?
29. Can I have a smell again?
Wait, you don't remember?
I remember liking it at the time, but I've had my nose in a lot of stuff. I liked it at the time.
Okay, which one was it then?
20-something, 23.
No, sorry.
So that's it.
That's it.
Me.
So yeah, The Moaning of Life, it lacks the great dynamic between Karl and the boys, but it makes up for it by allowing Karl to be more embracing of the experiences. However, 3 years later, Karl came back with the sitcom starring himself, called Sick of It. It follows Karl as basically just himself.
In Sick of It, I play 2 parts. I play a bloke called Karl, and I also play my inner self.
He's a cab driver who gets up to craziness every episode. It's not actually as bad as it sounds. One of my main worries when starting this show was the idea of Karl as a leading man. But he's fun to watch when he's just giving his opinion on things and speaking his mind, but it usually takes some range to lead a comedy like this. And obviously Karl isn't the most charismatic man on the planet. But the show does work the majority of the time. It's clearly inspired by Karl's real life. Every time he moans about something in the show, you just know he's taken it from a real life situation. But yeah, honestly, not too much to say about that one. But I do commend Karl for trying new things by himself and actually somewhat succeeding. Ricky definitely gave him the platform to win over the UK's hearts, and he capitalised on it fairly well. Although it is sad it seems we'll never get another show from all 3 guys. Ricky and Karl might team up again in the future, who knows. But I'm not too sure about Steve though. We've only got 4 more shows to look at by Ricky, and unfortunately Steve wasn't present on any of them. But I'll get to them soon enough. So far we've covered 8 of Ricky Gervais's projects, and it's clear why he's regarded as one of the many kings of comedy. But we've still got 2 more shows, 2 films, and his recent Netflix comedy special which came out Christmas Day last year to remind us all of the trajectory this edgy comedy god's career is going in. We've got a lot to get through in this final part, so let's dive straight in with 2012's Derek.
Derek's a show. How did you do that? How's the pitch making?
Best review I've ever had. Derek's a show.
Derek's a show.
Put that on the DVD. Derek, a show.
Derek is mental. I'm talking about the show, obviously. Not the concept of Derek as a show, and the fact that it's almost universally loved is absolutely mental to me. Not saying it's bad, but if any other comedian, even 11 years ago when this show aired, said, I'm going to make a mockumentary style sitcom set in an old people's home where the main character is a mentally challenged man and here's the twist, I'm going to play him. Best case scenario, there's at least picket signs outside of whatever studio is crazy enough to commission 3 series of it. But no one cares. But that's just the Ricky Gervais effect. He's curated the perfect career persona where he can get away with everything. But in terms of Derek, I do believe his heart was in the right place, and I don't think he does anything in the show overly offensive or mean-spirited. But as Sia and Rosie O'Donnell taught us, intention isn't everything when you're a famous face putting art out into the world for everyone to see.
Jesse's delicious! He's gonna take me today to get a new toilet seat because mine got broken and was sliding!
The main reason why I've just never been able to get into Derek is Ricky's portrayal. It's not for me to say how accurate his character is to real mentally challenged individuals, but I just can't watch Ricky waddle around like a penguin and make this fucking face every 5 seconds and fully believe his character.
And then when they're dead, they're not sad anymore. And I'd rather be sad than anyone else.
This is a huge hurdle you've got to get over to find any enjoyment out of this show, and I just can't. Which is a shame. The characterisation of Derek has clearly been done sensitively and from a good place, and there are some lines and moments that stuck out to me during the series of being really positive and heartwarming validations and perspectives.
You ever been tested for autism? I'm gonna get tests. If I am autistic, will I die?
No.
No. Will I have to go into hospital and do experiments on me? And
No.
will they change me in any way? Will I be the same person?
Yes.
Don't worry about it then.
The show's funny at times, but honestly I found myself enjoying and laughing at the outtakes more than anything that actually happens in the show. Carl's pretty good in it, Kev's just playing the exact same character this actor always does. Also, the tone of this show is so sappy. Sappy equals crappy. I've been saying it for years. The sappy piano melody that plays throughout the show, the forced sappy dialogue and sappy things, and the sappiness. At least for me, it kills any potential emotional impact the show could have, because they're trying way too hard. It never feels like this show is being written without the sole purpose of making the audience cry. The characters and plot points seem to only exist to squeeze as many tears out the viewer, and if you're not buying it, what else does this show offer? Now, this is the first show Ricky's worked on without the help of Stephen Merchant, and while I believe Ricky does know comedy and knows emotions, it's the humanity and relatability Stephen brings that every single one of Ricky's recent projects has been missing. And the desperate attempts at manipulation, the sappy piano, the plot points designed just to try and get you to cry, it all just feels like it stems from Ricky trying to win you over because of the initial problem of trying to get over him doing a disabled impression. Again, I don't have a problem with a neurotypical able-bodied person playing someone with autism in media. It's a case-by-case basis. I don't give a fuck. With cases like Sia's music, there were much bigger issues at play than just someone pretending to be mentally disabled. But I do find it baffling that Ricky's weird fanboys and Ricky himself's most prevalent topics of conversation today are cancel culture and freedom of speech, when I've seen not even close to a whimper regarding him doing what almost every other comedian, actor or writer wouldn't dare to do. Again, I don't have an inherent problem with Ricky playing this character, but the fact you're so easily accepted by the public to play this character without question, does that not tell you that you're not actually as edgy or controversial as you might have thought? Why not D for Derek? In the year 2016 AD, Ricky Gervais released 2 movies. They're both extremely bad, but I'm going to start with the least offensive one of the two, which is a Netflix original film called Special Correspondents. Special Correspondents was written by Ricky Gervais and was directed by Ricky Gervais, starring Ricky Gervais and the Hulk from Hulk. So a famous news journalist and his sound technician are tasked with covering a developing civil war in Ecuador, but on their way to the airport, for some reason, Ricky throws their passports in a garbage truck, which means now they have to cover the story of Ecuador in New York whilst pretending that they're in Ecuador. But then while they're in New York, some news comes out that they were kidnapped in Ecuador, which means now they've got to go to Ecuador for real. But then obviously, because this is the most predictable plot ever written, 15 minutes after getting to Ecuador they get kidnapped, and now they have to escape Ecuador and go back to New York. And I pooed myself. Nothing terrible about this one, it's just painfully standard and isn't really funny, intense, engaging or interesting. If it was just your run-of-the-mill low effort cash grab film, I wouldn't really be as harsh on it, but it's just the fact that Ricky Gervais chose to make this. I don't know if he just saw something in this film that did not translate at all, or if it was just to make a quick million to add to his pile, but I would love to see the Ricky Gervais fanboys trying to defend this one. But yeah, the film just kind of happens, you know, the plot happens, the characters kind of do things. Film ends really awkwardly, like they definitely didn't write an ending for this film. Ricky Gervais and Kelly MacDonald just kind of walk away like awkwardly improvising. It seems like they're improvising.
This is like the end of a movie.
A low budget movie, maybe.
And it was a great choice. Reminds me of the end of the Graduate. Super bland, super boring. E. Let's move on.
The film of The Office.
Right. It's not the film of The Office, no. It's Ricky doing a film about David Brent.
And he goes on, doesn't he go on tour?
I think he's sort of making it as a musician, or trying to make it as a musician.
Oh, okay. But you're not involved with that?
I'm not involved with that.
Has he dropped you?
He's no, I just he's
A couple months later, for some reason, Ricky thought it would be a good idea to revisit the most beloved character he's ever created for a David Brent solo film called David Brent: Life on the Road. I don't think it takes much to explain why this film was just a bad idea from the very start. How about we make a film showing what David Brent is up to after the events of The Office? No, let's not do that. In the series finale of The Office, we got two major payoffs. One being Tim and Dawn's smooching, and the other being a tiny, wincy-twincy glimmer of hope for David Brent. Hope that he can be genuinely happy and learn to let go of his insecurities and desperation to please others while still staying true to himself. Now, a film set 20 years later can do one of two things. Either acknowledge and solidify that change, show that he's grown into himself and is leading a happy life, which would be boring and unfunny, or treat that glimmer of hope in the finale as meaningless, strip him of any nuance and depth, and show him desperately trying to start a music career whilst acting as a hollow caricature of the man he used to be. And spoilers, but they went with the latter. David Brent in this film was just annoying. Not like an endearing or tragic or interesting way like he used to be. He's just an irritating man. That laugh, by the way, get used to hearing it because it never stops.
Here we go.
Yeah, we are foregone conclusion.
Clearly one of the driving motivations for Ricky to poop this film out were the songs heard throughout. These moments were pretty popular throughout The Office, and I'm sure Ricky looks up to shows like Flight of the Conchords and just wanted to do that. But he was already doing that. For years, Ricky's been putting out random David Brent songs onto YouTube. Why can't you just stick to that, or put out an album as David Brent, or go on tour or something? You know, I bet you sell loads of tickets. The reason Brent's songs were so funny in The Office is because they were real. You know, they felt like David was putting in real effort and took real inspiration to write them. They were melodramatic and cliche and weird, but they had a believable competence to them. But the opening song to this, I'm gonna be generous and call it a film, is full of lines that make no sense for David Brent to sit down and write. This was just a quick joke in The Office, a classic Brent moment.
I can be in my office, yeah, bombing along at 70 miles an hour plus, 70 miles an hour tops.
His initial reaction to this moment was to seem calm and cool about his sometimes reckless driving. You know, this is what I do, this is just another day at the office. But then his second reaction after remembering the camera's presence is to downplay his previous statement as to not end up in any potential legal trouble or be seen as a bad role model to the public. So this same joke makes no sense and therefore isn't funny in the context of him consciously writing it into a song. David's #1 goal is to always seem cool, relatable, funny, entertaining, sexy, or or caring, but for some reason he's so self-conscious about the public's perception of him exceeding the national speed limit that he feels the need to clarify it in the opening song to this fucking monstrosity that Steve probably begged him not to write. Life as a toad. That's all I got. A gripe I always have when a show or film attempts a specific style of direction is when it's half-arsed. This film would have been miles better if it really pushed for the documentary style, but it's so detached from reality that it makes the style redundant. The camera quality, framing of most of the shots, and the coverage completely goes against the documentary style to a point where it would have just made more sense to shoot it like a normal film. Doc Brown's pretty funny and likeable throughout, the guy from Afterlife is pretty good, but the rest of the band members don't even seem like actors. I don't know if they're real musicians or what, but wouldn't it have made more sense to get people who can act? Quiz time! In David Brent, Life on the Road, how many times does David say the N-word with a hard R? Is it A, 0, B, 1, C, 2, or D, 3? Trick question, it's 5. Now, what would be the point of this film if there wasn't some sort of arc for our main character? Well, the reason we sat through this irritating mess was to watch David learn that he doesn't have to be liked by everyone to be happy. And in the end, he even meets the perfect girl, to prove that there is someone for everyone. This is just his arc in The Office. And just to be clear, I'm not saying that the ending to this film is anywhere near as appropriate or satisfying as the ending to The Office. Because it's not. For the entire runtime, David's just being weird and annoying and stupid and embarrassing. Obviously until the last 10 minutes when everyone changes their mind for no reason.
It was definitely right to end it when it did. I mean, to come back now would just be mad, wouldn't it?
Everyone must agree that you couldn't carry it on for years and years.
There was nowhere really left for us to take it.
It's just not even a debate for me that was the right thing.
There's not even a part of me that thinks, I wonder if we could do another one. We just mustn't.
This film definitely isn't without its funny moments. There are a couple jokes that got out of me, but I don't care. This film just shouldn't have been made. Definitely not if the only thing to get out of it is a couple of... So yeah, it's bad. Shouldn't have been made. And ironically, this version of David Brent is Ricky Gervais' best performance as a mentally challenged man. But you know, am I being too hard on this film? You know, Ricky, he went out, he tried something different. He loves this character. You know, as we all do. And I think maybe the ending to The Office just wasn't enough. Maybe he wanted something deeper. He wanted more hope for this character. He wanted a happier ending because you know, that's what we all want. And when you build a character from the ground up that you have such an attachment to, such love for, you know, it becomes part of you, you know. And maybe that was what Ricky set out to do with this. Maybe there was a part of him that felt like David needed that hope and happiness because maybe Ricky needed it as well.
So, and everything works out, doesn't it? You think you want one thing along the way, and then you realise you needed something else. Life's a struggle with little beautiful surprises that make you want to carry on through all the shit to the next little beautiful surprise.
Just kidding, it sucked. Stinky poo-poo. Let's move on.
You could binge watch the entire first season of Afterlife instead of watching this show. That's a show about a man who wants to kill himself because his wife dies of cancer, and it's still more fun than this, okay?
I'm going to cut to the chase. Afterlife's really bad. A few years ago I attempted to watch it because of the constant rave reviews it was getting, but after being subjected to the most unlikable protagonist ever created for 25 minutes, and the majority of the comedy being centred around calling someone a cunt or fat or a ginger fat cunt, I dreaded to think that every episode would be the exact same, so I stopped watching there and then. But years later my fears were made reality, as I sat through 3 seasons of everything I disliked all those years ago. Let's start with the positives, because I'm fully aware that the people who like this show truly love it with a burning, blubbering passion, and I don't want my negative experience with this show to devalue anyone else's positive one. It's shot pretty competently. You know, everything's in focus. The dog's acting is good. Alright, on to the negatives. So let's start with the character of Tony. Justify it all you want, he's dealing with some pretty intense depression and grief, but at least for the entirety of season 1, he's painfully unlikable. He just brings everyone down, he's bitter and rude and annoying to a degree I don't think was intended, which is a lot of slack left to the ensemble of panel show comedians and Ricky Gervais's mates to pick up. And as soon as you don't care about any of the characters, suddenly the 9 hours of television this show has to offer becomes a massive chore. And this is mainly because of the way it's structured. Afterlife is structured as a strange combination of a small town drama soap and a comedy sitcom, but the elements taken from both don't gel together at all. Nothing builds in this show. A typical episode will have Tony wake up with his dog, watch a video of his dead wife, go to work, call someone a cunt, walk down the street, call someone a cunt, go see his dad, sit on a bench with Harriet Jones and then go home. And this happens every single episode until the show ends. And usually this repetitive scene-to-scene structure in other sitcoms would be fine because the episode would be telling its own story throughout. But remember, this isn't just a sitcom, it's also a drama.
Hi mate, you got any money?
Yeah.
What?
Focusing on only one big story, and so all these repetitive scenes bleed into one another, and sitting in out I couldn't tell you what actually happens in any episode. Although I do find episode 4 of season 1 very memorable. There's one actually really beautiful moment. So Tony befriends the local heroin addict and learns he's addicted to heroin because his girlfriend died. They chat and they realise that they have a lot in common. Tony tries out heroin a couple times, but one night they talk and the addict says to him that they're not the same because Tony hasn't given up yet. And if he had enough money, he'd buy all the drugs he could and overdose. So Tony, so generously, and out of the kindness of his heart, gives him all the money in his wallet, and the guy dies of an overdose that very night. Am I mental? I really hope I've completely missed the point of this subplot or misinterpreted it or something, because this isn't treated as a bad thing. When Tony first gave him the money, my first thought was it was to make him see that he didn't actually want to die. But Tony doesn't seem to feel guilt at all when he finds out that he later overdosed after buying drugs through the money that Tony gave him. He never repents, he never talks about it ever again. I'm truly baffled at what this subplot was trying to say about anything. So yeah, half of the dramatic elements just don't work at all. But you know, this is Ricky Gervais we're talking about. He's not a dramatic writer, is he? He's a comedic writer. He's a comedian. But this show isn't funny either. And FYI, the comedy is subjective argument just doesn't hold up in this instance. I know there are people who find Afterlife funny and I just don't. But the reason I don't is because the jokes are objectively either lazy or predictable. For example, use the word cunt or fuck as many times as you'd like in your joke. It's great at adding emphasis or reinforcing a type of emotion you want to get across in the joke, anger or contempt or such and such. It should be used to enhance a joke. But in Afterlife it's not even used as a crutch, but as the foundation the joke is built on.
I'm not a pedo, and if I was, you'd be safe, you tubby little ginger cunt.
Here the joke is simply that small children are usually seen as innocent, and Tony has overreacted to the situation and called him a word that contrasts this innocence to a major degree. Take the swear word out, it doesn't weaken the joke, it makes it so that there isn't a joke.
Your friends here, though?
They're not friends, they're cunts, all of them. And when I outlive one of them, they bring a new cunt in to take their place. Cunts.
Here the joke is that elderly people are usually seen as innocent, and this old woman has unexpectedly said some bad words. Take the bad words out and it doesn't weaken the joke, it makes it so that there isn't a joke. Now, is this just a case of my humour changing and I've become a boring person who doesn't find swearing in jokes funny anymore? Or has Ricky's writing lost its depth or wit it used to have?
This is my story, my memories, my tribute to my dead wife.
Would you stop going on about your fucking dead wife?
The joke here isn't that Ben Stiller said the word fuck. The F word here is purely used to emphasise the contempt Ben Stiller has for this poor man that has slowly been building throughout the episode. Take away the F word and it slightly weakens the joke, it lessens the impact of his harsh outburst, but the joke still stands on its own. One of my biggest pet peeves with Ricky's new material is when he forces his religious or political ideologies into the dialogue. It always feels unnatural. It always feels like he's trying to preach us his beliefs that I don't care about. Like the amount of times we'll get like a 4-minute scene of Tony sitting at work and then someone will come in and go, I saw a ghost last night, Tony. And then Tony will go, no, ghosts don't exist. And then they'll go, yeah, they do. How do you explain all the people who believe in ghosts? And Tony goes, well, there's no substantial evidence to support the claim that ghosts exist. Tell the story you're writing. I know you don't believe in ghosts.
How can you not believe in God?
Which one?
What do you mean?
But there are about 3,000 to choose from that have been, people who believe in
I've done some reading, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, you know how you don't believe in all those other gods I mentioned? That's how I don't believe in yours. You deny one less god than I do. You don't believe in 2,999 gods, and I don't believe in just one more.
Right.
What, the Big Bang? Everything came from nothing? That's impossible.
You're right, God did it.
Right.
Because we straight away say, well, who made God? So, where did God come from?
He's always been around.
And if they say, well, he's always been around, well, let's just say the universe has then. Let's just cut out the middleman. It saves time.
Tony's character in Afterlife is basically just Ricky Gervais if he was grieving and miserable. And I'm sure in some ways this was the best thing Ricky could have done, if this is the show he wanted to write. If he has no real personal experience with deep loss or depression or suicidal thoughts, then the most honest thing you can do is just write yourself verbatim. But similar to his newest stand-ups, I do get sick of hearing the same thing over and over again. His hatred of people eating too loud, or his atheism, or his hatred of fat people, which comes into full effect here. And while we're on the topic of fat people, Ricky Gervais has proven to be the most fat-phobic man to ever exist. And like, I don't care, I'm not offended, I mean, I'm not fat. But when you rely on the same joke for, 20 years? Change the tune, man! Ricky's been beating this fat dead horse ever since his first project. And I've checked, every single project I've reviewed so far has at least one joke aimed towards fat people.
So, I don't believe it, look at this.
If we're handing out insults for being fat, let's have a go at him. Look at him.
Big fat hippo.
I land. This bear is coming toward a big, lumbering eating machine, like that happy chap over there.
They are Ethiopian peasants who used to own houses, land.
He's a lying little sod. He's been eating. He's got a pot belly and everything.
You want to do a day's filming with Helen the Bottom Cart for shit money while a fat bloke with a beard does your lines for you because you're so crap at acting?
You see these fat people in pubs going, well, he's lost a few yards up front. Yeah, you fucking score a goal then, fatty.
I don't want any fat people to feel uncomfortable at one of my gigs, so next time, buy 2 seats. Right?
Okay. Derek. Douglas.
Alright, Kev.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Even Special Correspondents, where Ricky plays a kind, insecure, feeble man, still finds the time to take the piss out of a fatty.
I need to eat. I know a good place.
I'm quite hungry. This guy needs to eat.
I just find it hard to have any emotional investment in a character when they're just spouting the idealism of a man I've been watching spout for my entire life. Series 2 wasn't as annoying as Series 1, mainly because our main character is no longer set on making other people's lives as miserable as possible, which, is always good for a main character. Although, sitting here writing the script today, I have no idea what happens in this series. I remember scenes here and there, vague moments, some characters, but in terms of plot or anything substantial, I remember nothing. And I could so easily go and refresh my memory right now. It's only been a week since I binged the last 2 seasons, but my TV, it's 2 meters away from me. I could so easily just go and skim through the show, but honestly, I couldn't care less. When I first started Afterlife, I had a deep hatred for this show, but after forcing myself to finish it, call it exposure therapy, call it Stockholm Syndrome, I do not care anymore. I can completely understand how this show can be deeply comforting for some people who are experiencing loss or depression. This show can make them feel like they're not alone, a comforting reassurance that whatever you're going through, it's all part of the human condition and you're not alone in it. But for anyone trying to watch this as an entertaining piece of media, bad luck. I did intend on going deeper into this show, but it sucked everything from me. Afterlife, the show that sucks you fucking dry. Whatever redeeming qualities this show has of certain themes and tiny morsels of comfortability that I don't have the willpower to dig for. As will come clear when I get to Ricky's most recent project, Armageddon, I personally feel like Ricky's writing has been stripped of any of the wit and intelligence it used to have, and is now just pandering to an audience he's accumulated of ride-or-die idiots who salivate every time one of their extremely basic ideologies are validated by Ricky. If you truly love this show and find immense comfort and entertainment from it, then I genuinely do understand. I'm not lumping every one of his fans into that description because I'm a fan of him myself, but as for this show, it's simply not for me. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. If you're extremely angry at me at my assessment of a TV show, then reevaluate your entire life. It's an E or a D or so, I don't give a shit anymore. On Christmas Day 2023, Santa came down the chimney and left a big pile of Ricky Gervais under the tree. A brand new stand-up called Armageddon. This is his newest project to date, and I was so excited to see how Ricky has developed comedically. It's been a year and a half since his last stand-up special, Supernature, and I was excited to see the growth he's undergone since then. Now, during this review, I'm gonna say some things. I'm going to give some opinions, and I might even state them as facts. As we all know, comedy's subjective, and so if I say something like, this isn't funny, it's a quick rebuttal to say something along the lines of, fuck you, Ricky Gervais has more talent and monies in his left ear than you have in your entire body. And whilst that may be true, I'm still going to try and voice my criticisms with this special to the best of my ability. Because as I've said before, I believe Ricky's stand-ups are getting worse and worse, with this rightfully being the laziest, least funny, most predictable and most eye-rolling special yet. As I've said before, my preference with Ricky's stand-ups were when he played more into the perception the audience had of him, which allowed not only the satire and commentary in his comedy to be more easily spotted and in turn funnier, but also made him feel like he was always one step ahead of the audience. But nowadays he just seems so pandering. He's telling the audience exactly what they want to hear, which would be fine if his whole stand-up personality wasn't built around pushing the envelope and being edgy. The reason why people fell in love with Ricky's comedy wasn't because he was offensive, it was because he didn't care whether he was offensive. That's the whole point, he didn't care about people's perception of him. But nowadays, he does care whether people think he's offensive. He actively wants them to think he's offensive. And that's not funny.
Right, I've got a woke joke, right? You remember those jokes we used to have when we were kids, like Doctor jokes, like, Doctor, I keep thinking I'm a pair of curtains. Well, pull yourself together then, right? I've done a woke version of that, brought it up to today's standards, right? So, bloke goes to the doctor. He goes, Doctor, I keep thinking I'm a pair of curtains. And the doctor goes, well, you are then.
Regardless of your political opinions, is this not just a lazily written joke? By the setup, you know exactly where it's going. Like, surely it's not just me who was hearing this exact same joke 5 years ago. Oh, if they're gonna be whatever they want to be, I'm gonna be a tree. I'm gonna be a chair. Then I'm gonna be a chair. If they can be whatever they want to be, I'm gonna be a chair. And now we have Britain's funniest comedian, unironically using it in a joke in 2023. Is this a fever dream? Regardless of the fact that I've heard like randomers tell this exact same joke 5 years ago, told better by the way. Like, what is that setup? Oh, you know those jokes that go that sort of way. Well, this is what I'm doing here is basically a woke version of that joke, but with. You're a professional comedian. You do this as a living, man. It's structured as a lazy first draft that he just didn't even think to refine. Which, of course, he hasn't rewritten or refined because he's accumulated a stadium full of mouth-breathing idiots that will laugh at anything he says.
Apparently, it's 2019. Most people still more than happy to laugh at transgender people. Not as comfortable laughing at Ricky Gervais yet, I've discovered. That's the line.
And this is the pothole that I fear Ricky and his audience has fallen down. There are interesting conversations you can have about the new surge of social politics nowadays. There's smart comedy to be found there, but when you obsess more about the 1% of people actually truly offended by what you're saying, you lose sight of everyone else. Now you can't even say Ricky's comedy isn't funny without someone saying, well, you're offended. Yeah, you know what I'm offended by? Uninspired pandering comedy that's been said a million times. I've never been more annoyed by an audience in a stand-up show before. Ricky could say the most basic, standard take ever, and all you'll hear from the audience is,
I opened them up, they were shit. Now,
I don't know what sweatshop they were made in or what little 8-year-old Chinese kid made them, but he should be fucking punished because in China, there are 10 million Chinese paedophiles. 10 million Chinese paedophiles in China, and there's not enough kids. Because they've been restricting the birth. There's all these poor pedos, and they're going, where's all the fucking kids? Like, you know, fuck me, we're having to double up here, and...
Yeah. What are you clapping about? See, these sorts of things Ricky is saying aren't clever or, funny to me, I guess. But they're getting this sort of reaction from the audience because they're offensive, because they're objectively offensive. And he's garnering this sort of reaction because the audience has been bred to think that, oh, no other comedian would say anything like this. Yes, they would. There are so many comedians, so many popular comedians out right now saying way worse stuff than this, but they format them into jokes. They make them funny.
I just thought of a joke then, I can't do it. It is actually too offensive. Okay.
Do it, Ricky. Come on, say it. And there's this one really annoying laugh that you can hear every now and then, and it's fucking annoying. What the fuck is that? Being such a fan of Ricky's old material, I feel like I'm actually being punished for watching as much of it as I have. How many times can he make the same joke about Schindler's List before it stops being funny? The film's over 30 years old, Ricky.
Not a traditional subject for comedy, the Holocaust. I'll give you that. Probably why Spielberg didn't put a laughter track on Schindler's List. It would have ruined it. I looked up one film on here, Schindler's List.
There's a joke in this special that genuinely could have been told by David Brent during his introductory speech in The Office.
This is off the charts. That's... Wouldn't things have been different if that was Hitler's salute? The whole thing would have been... He goes like, it's Hitler. Wouldn't he? Oh. Right. Okay. That's...
It's like he didn't even want to tell that joke. But yeah, I reckon I'm going to leave it there. I really didn't want to end this series so negative, you know. Despite all this, I'd still call myself a fan of Ricky Gervais. Whatever he makes next, I'll definitely watch it, because I know what he's capable of. Even if his sitcoms and films haven't been as good as when Merchant was on the scene, it's Ricky's personality that makes him who he is, and I still love hearing his takes to this day. The Golden Globe speeches were all him, and they're objectively the best thing to come out of recent award shows. But when you get to a certain level of fame, it's hard to keep a healthy perspective on the world and your impact on it, and it's frustrating to see the types of topics he holds as important recently. He's still one of my favourite comedians. The endless amount of greatness he's produced throughout his career can't just be thrown away, and I know my opinion on him means jack shit, but I know I'm not alone in feeling this way. But I guess, in the end, Ricky's greatest trick wasn't convincing his fans that he's a comedy god who can do no wrong.
It was convincing everyone else that you couldn't ridicule that idea.
But yeah, in conclusion, Ricky's fans, wherever you are, I love you. That's all from me. Goodbye. Sweet dreams. Mwah.